If you ever tried to buy a house and felt lost, welcome to Mortgage Support. This is where I answer real-world questions that people send me every single day. My name is Nathan. I've helped over 500 families, renovated a bunch of properties, so I've seen it all. So let's start with question number one. Hi, Nathan. I have an update. I checked Credit Karma right now in my SoFi account, and it turns out my credit is only 685. How much will this negatively impact me as a first-time home buyer? Also, I submitted all the forms. Please let me know if there's anything else you need from me. So basically, first question is more about credit, and in this scenario, he had one score and all the other bureaus, so Equifax and Experian, were showing no scores, right? So we're gonna talk about what happens if you don't have a credit score, and what are kind of like the 5 things that you could do if you have newer credit or no credit. So basically, like if you move from a different country, or if you just graduate high school, right? And you're just trying to establish your credit. So let's go over a few things there. Basically, this is very common for the younger generation where they're trying to house hack and really establish their credit because they know houses are gonna get more expensive in the future and they're renting right now. So they're like, wait, I'm renting with other roommates with like 4 guys and gals. Why don't I just be the landlord and then I have them pay me? So I do see this quite often. And again, this is a younger gentleman. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So basically there's gonna be 5 things that I've seen and could recommend for anyone that's watching this. So let's talk about credit. All right, so there's 5 things you could do. Step 1 is, unfortunately, in the US, it's a weird thing, but you can use your card. Basically, in this scenario, he had a credit card, but just one, but wasn't using it that often. So maybe he would go like 4 months without using it. And I know in America, the credit score system is actually really weird where you actually have to use your credit card to get a credit score. But in this scenario, he was actually really good with his money because if you think about it, he didn't need any debt. And so he managed his cash well. But in this scenario, you gotta use your card just a little bit. Now, I'm not saying use your card, go to Vegas and gamble it all the way. I'm just saying if you're getting gas, just do it once a month or every other week or something like that, however often you get gas. Use that, set up auto pay and have that be taken care of. So it's a little small amount and you're not gonna go too crazy. And that's one way to have your score show up. Basically, you gotta use a card to get data. So that way the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So these are the bureaus. TransUnion is one, okay? Equifax is another. And then Experian is the other bureau. So there's 3 credit bureaus that basically report your score. And all 3 of them usually have different credit scores because they use different data, blah, blah, blah. But you gotta use your card to get data. So that way these 3 entities can give you a score. Number 2 is authorized user. This is a very popular one that I recommend. So basically, if you're like on the younger age, maybe you got some hair, something, and then you're 18 years old and you just opened your credit. So you have barely any data. And then let's say you have your parents that, clearly are older. I don't know. Sorry for the weird hair, but maybe they're 40, 50 years old or something like that, 55. So they have had 30 years of credit history. So basically what you do as an authorized user is you get their credit card, you get added onto their credit, and it's almost like you get to use their credit history for your credit. Now, some loan programs will want you to have your own credit, and then you could have some authorized user, but this is a great way to have credit score show up, so that way credit card companies can actually give you credit. So it's almost like this is like a stepping stone, and it's not a permanent solution, but it's a stepping stone so that way you can get offers on other credit cards, and then you can start establishing your credit and stuff like that, right? Now, like I said, what I'm trying to say is don't go crazy if they give you all these credit offers that you open 16 of them. It's just so you get your foot in the door and you can start with one and then you can build your credit from there. Number 3 is secured credit card. So basically you put in to the bank, basically like let's say you have $100, you give it to Le Bank, that's a bank, I guess, and then they give you a $100 limit for a card. Yeah, that's a credit card, I know. But basically, an unsecured credit card means, hey, they don't check if you have $10,000. They give you a credit card limit of $10,000. But a secured card is you have $100 or $50, 200, 300, whatever you have. You put it as collateral, or you give it to the bank and say, hey, I'm gonna give you the money. If I don't pay the bills, you take it from me. So you give them $100 and then they give you a $100 credit card in this simple example. So this is a great way if you have no credit because you have like secured money at the bank. So just in case, worst case, you don't make the payment, they have $100 to back it up. So that's another way you can establish your credit if you don't have any. Okay, number 4 is get other card or loan. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean go crazy and get 15 credit cards and max them out, right? It's just opening up the credit card, putting $5 on it or a pack of gum at the gas station, or getting a little protein shake if you want to stay healthy at the gas station or 7-Eleven, and then you pay it off as auto pay. And then the loan, again, it doesn't mean you go buy a car just to go buy a car. If you just happen to need to get a car, or some sort of other installment loan like student loans or something like that, that might be a good option. Basically adding more credit lines so that way TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian have more data so that way they can give you actual credit scores. Now, please heed my warning where I'm not saying get credit just to max everything out. It's just that we're gonna use it in a wise way. So that way we use it as a stepping stone. So number 5 is report your bills. So again, you might have like insurance, car insurance, like a phone bill, utilities, or rent, right? I think there's like a popular credit card company called Bilt. I think it's BILT. I've seen some other clients use that where they can report your credit or your rent, or you can pay your rent through here and they give you credit for it. So basically, if there's any reoccurring thing that you're paying right now, try to get it on your credit scores for TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Some of the popular ones are going to be phone bills, insurance, utilities. I see that quite a bit, and rent. So those are the popular ones. If you're living rent-free, try taking over some of the phone bills, internet bill, or something like that, insurance. So that way we can prove that we can get a bill and pay it on time. Even though you may not have any debt, and obviously it's proven that you're not crazy in debt because you paid everything off. Just know like the credit score system is kind of backwards where you have to use it to get data. So these are kind of the 5 ways and 5 recommendations. Like if I see someone who, especially for this gentleman who had newer credit, these are the 5 things that I always recommend. Like I said, we always want to prioritize progress over perfection, just meaning if you can't do all 5, that's totally okay. Just choose one, do it really well, focus on that. Once you're done, then we can start talking about adding the other one. Now, when you try to do all 5, it's gonna be very overwhelming for sure, where you're just like, oh, I'm new to home buying. It's already a big task enough buying a house, right? So trying to do 5 other things on top of, living life, social life, work, could be very overwhelming. So I would say start with 1, get that done, and then move on to the next one. Now, if you're watching this and you're trying to think, okay, which one would I recommend the best bang for the buck? I would say authorized user is probably like the easiest one to start getting credit. So that way maybe you can, get a secured credit card or get another credit card as well. Because like maybe you don't have a card right now because you have no credit. So usually try to get added on as an authorized user, and this will open the door for 3 and 4. So if you had to start with 1, I'd recommend number 2. I guess I should have named it number 1, but I would start here, and that should open the door for other things as well. Hope that helps if you have no credit or newer credit. All right, next question is from a client that sent me a text message. Hola, yeah, but I don't know if I'm financially ready for that yet. And by the way, for context, I was just, checking up on him to make sure everything was going well. And then I basically asked, how long have you been working at airlines? He said 4 months at United. Oh, I thought you were at a different airline for about a year or so, because I remember I connected with him like a year or 2 ago. And then he said, yeah, I was at a different one. So total flight attendant journey as 2. And what I figured would be actually a really good explanation for someone out there. If you switched jobs or careers, I want to help translate what the lender is going to be looking for, because the famous saying, you want to skate where the puck is going by Wayne Gretzky, is basically figuring out what lenders look for. So if you know where the puck is going, or you know what lenders are looking for, you can be better informed. So let's go over that. Okay, so I just drew this all out to save some time here. So we have the 2-year golden standard rule that lenders look at. So if you have 24 months of experience, you're pretty much good to go. Now, if you have less than that, you're gonna fall into different buckets and stuff like that. So a common example is like, okay, wait a minute, Nathan, I literally just graduated school, or I just, finished my training in X industry, and then I've just hopped into another one. Like, does that mean I can't get a mortgage? No, let me kind of explain what lenders would be looking at. So if you're like just in school and then you just graduated and you got a job and it's salary or full-time, usually what you can do is just use this salary right now, which is awesome. And then you're gonna get official school transcripts to prove that you had the prior work experience as a student, and you use that experience to get this full-time salary. So basically what you're doing is you're bridging past experience as a student to get this full 2-year history. Then there is the other route of, okay, so let's say you are in a different industry and then now you're switching to a new one, let's say restaurant industry to airline, which is what this client was doing. Usually the minimum is gonna be a 1-year minimum, depending on the loan program, of course. But your 1-year minimum, if you're going from like a salary to a varying type income. Okay, so basically salary as, you know, he was like a manager, and then he went into some sort of varying type income where, you know, you pick up shifts and stuff like that as an airline, or as a flight attendant, excuse me. So in that situation, you're gonna need a 1-year minimum. So to directly answer his question, now that he actually has 2 full years, even going from salary to varying income, like you're totally fine. Now the cool thing is if you went from salary, different industry, to a different industry with another salary, and salary is defined by guaranteed pay, okay? So if anyone's watching this and you're like, I don't know what that means. It means if I were to take a week off, you should have paid time off as a salary employee, and your pay should not change from month to month. Now, if a lender looks at it, usually what they're gonna see is your pay stubs, right? And if your year-to-date earnings doesn't really match what your projected supposedly monthly income is supposed to be, then they're gonna start asking more questions, right? Maybe you got a raise or whatever, right? But that's basically what salary means. I get the same monthly income every single month, pretty much no matter what. So in that situation, if I went from $50,000 to like a $70,000 salary, the cool thing is I can use this $70,000 salary right away because lenders see that as predictable income. But if I went salary to varying, and I went from, you know, $5,000 a month to $3,000 a month 1 month to $5,000 a month for varying income, as you can see, like you probably need some history to prove like, hey, everything's gonna be good. So all in all, there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to income calculation. Income is actually the biggest deal killer when it comes to buying a house. So if you were to focus on one thing and you have any sort of weird scenario where you're like, I have not hit this 2-year rule, having a great mortgage guide to figure out your income, because this is the biggest deal killer out there, where income is miscalculated by the mortgage person. And then when you get into contract and the dream house that you were looking for starts crumbling apart, it's usually because of income, right? Because your credit's your credit. Now, you know, there's some things where credit, like if you get new credit, that could be an issue, but income's the big one, right? So if you aren't at this 2-year rule, definitely figure out, hey, do I fall into any of these other exceptions like the 1-year minimum? Can I use prior experience? Can I prove that I have, you know, guaranteed pay or stuff like that? I would definitely focus a lot of attention here if your income is not, you know, I've been here for 24 months and my income's pretty dialed in. So hopefully that helps you if you have any scenario regarding income. So next question reads, hi Nathan, thanks for the terrific responses. I've started uploading materials and will continue tomorrow. A couple of follow-ups. Question number 1 is, how long is the pre-approval typically good for? That's actually a very common question. And then number 2, are you licensed in any other states like the New England states? There's a set of dashboards showed us, etc. So obviously for this video, I'm gonna focus on question number 1, because question number 2 is, you know, specific to this person's scenario. So basically, how long are pre-approvals good for? I would like to divide it into essentially 2 different camps, right? So there's gonna be, I'm gonna call it the drive-through, right? And so what I mean by drive-through is you're going through the process and you feel like it's going through fast food of mortgages, right? You talk to somebody, they pass you on to the next conveyor belt, and then you move on. And you're like, It is very quick and fast, I should say, right? So when it comes to drive-through lending, usually what they're gonna do is they're good for about 90 days. So again, if you don't find a house, you have to kind of redo the whole process. Now, it doesn't mean filling out your questionnaire or application. Again, it probably means supplying updated documentation. So what is like the updated documentation usually? It's gonna be, you know, in the lending trifecta that is trademark pending here, is you have your income, and then you have your credit, if I can spell that, and then you have your savings. Savings. So with these 3 pillars, these are the things, that's why it's expired in 90 days, because usually these things don't change that often, and 90 days is kind of like that rule. Credit reports are technically good for 120 days or 4 months. Income, again, 90 days. Savings, usually good for 90 days as well. So the reason why they do this is because when you get a pre-approval letter or sometimes even a pre-qualification letter if you're dealing with a not so good lender. What's gonna happen is that's kind of like a snapshot in time. So I'll give you an extreme example. Let's say you get your pre-approval and your income is at X dollar a month, and then literally next month you change jobs and you have higher income. The lender wouldn't actually know that you got a higher income until you supply updated documents, right? Or credit, what if you bought a car, right? Or there's some holiday savings that you wanted to get appliances at or something like that, and you open up a credit card or store department credit card. Mortgage lender wouldn't know that until you supply or let them know that you got this information. Or your savings, let's say holidays are coming up and you're spending a lot for gifts, etc. They wouldn't know until you actually, give them those updates. So that's like the 90-day rule. And then on the other side, I'm gonna call this a guide, okay? Now there's plenty of guides out there, mortgage guides out there, okay? I'm not saying I'm the only one. There's plenty out there, okay? So on the mortgage guide side, where they actually walk you through everything and they help you, like kind of hold your hand as you're climbing that mountain of home ownership, they'll usually go for 90 days and then I'm gonna do plus. So what does this 90-day plus mean? Is as long as you keep that mortgage guide updated on income, credit, and savings, when you go submit an offer, it's like, hey, let's say it's 92 days or 95 days, right? You're gonna submit an offer, you found the house, right? Then what's gonna happen is this mortgage guide should be working with your real estate agent and saying, hey, looks like your documents are a few days past expiration. Can you let me know, has your income, credit, and savings changed, or has it been the same since the snapshot in time that we took 95 days ago or 90 plus days ago? If you say yes, then you're good to go. They'll just extend it. If you say, no, it has changed, my income has changed, okay, cool. Just provide updated docs to support that, right? Again, if it's credit, same thing, savings, I spent like $10,000 more. Okay, no worries. What is the updated balance? So that way we can plug it in on the back-end system so that way it's more accurate. And then they run through the scenario. Okay, so it looks like everything's good. Your pre-approval hasn't changed. So here's an updated pre-approval letter for the next 90 days. So it's not like you have to go through the whole process all over again. This is a little more seamless in my opinion. So that's a long-winded answer on how long your pre-approval is good for. It kind of depends on which side you're going for. Again, there's no right or wrong, but just be mindful. This is gonna be a more hard and fast rule, and this is gonna be more like a 90-day plus. And remember the big saying that I believe in, which is perfect preparation always beats perfect timing. So I don't want this to scare anybody in the sense of like, oh, if I have to do this, I have to do it again. I promise you, even if you go through drive-through lending, it is a lot shorter if you had to get updated items. And just remember, perfect preparation beats perfect timing in the sense that if you perfectly prepare, then it's going to help you increase the surface area of luck of finding the right house at the right price. And also it is kind of weird if you think about it, like if anyone's out there watching this, but like let's say, October 7th at 1 p.m., I'm gonna turn my home search on, or I'm gonna look for the perfect soulmate just on that random day. It's kind of weird, right? But if you perfectly prepare, meaning, I'm gonna be looking for my perfect soulmate, and I'm preparing for that. Maybe you start going to more social events, and maybe you don't find the right one right away, or maybe you're like trying to figure out, hey, how do I talk to people in a charismatic way? And you start testing it out when you're going out to these social events. Or let's say, you get a haircut because you want to look more presentable, right? You're perfectly preparing. So then when the time happens and you find the soulmate, potential soulmate, I should say, you've already perfectly prepared. So then the timing kind of happens as a consequence of perfect preparation. So hopefully that analogy makes sense. And I always tell like first-time home buyers out there, or just any home buyer, as long as you perfectly prepare, like you're gonna increase your surface area of luck. And also you're gonna be more knowledgeable than the other people out there who are like, I just saw a house this weekend, I'm gonna put an offer. And they're like trying to condense all this knowledge and learnings into like a 24-hour period. So that's my little spiel on perfect preparation and timing. All right, next question. Hi, Nathan. While we work on getting documents together to upload, we had a few questions for you after reviewing the initial purchase analysis. And there are a few questions. There's 2 other questions ahead of time, but it was more personal information, so I'm gonna redact that. But number 3, I think will be helpful for anyone watching this as well. So any thoughts on how you would consider rental income to help offset monthly costs? Would that get factored into the model at all, or is it best not to count on it? Any suggestions as how to research the likelihood of renting a given property so as to gauge an expected rental income for a given year? year. We'd assume we target a midterm rental period versus short-term given the local bylaws and headaches of the short-term turnover. All right, so basically let's translate that into like very simple language. To give you some context, this home buyer was looking into buying this next property as a vacation home or investment property. And basically, what are some tools out there that I can use to project how much rent I could get? Now, the keyword is projection. Now, there's projection versus actual, right? Actual is like, hey, for this particular property, given like the nuances of the street location, the neighborhood, the exact zip code, there's a coffee shop right over here, and the freeway noise isn't that bad. You know, it's all dependent on the property as well. I mean, real estate, people say location, 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 right? So the actuals is always good to get from the prior sellers, if you can get it. Now, pretty rare, especially if they were buying it as a primary residence and you're trying to make it a vacation home or investment property, but actuals is always good. But projected, which is basically what's our best pro forma or projection of what this property could perform. Basically, if you can match projections versus actuals to be the exact number, it's not risky to invest in real estate, right? But the question is, hey, I don't know what the projected rents are gonna be versus the reality, right? So our goal is to match projections as close to reality as possible. So that way you can reverse engineer what price point or what purchase price we submit. So let me walk you through a few ideas here. Let me move my laptop out of the way. I got a feeling I'm gonna need all this space here. So there's a few like flavors of ice creams when you come to buy a house, right? Meaning like your occupancy. So there's gonna be, one is your primary. Two, like I mentioned, is gonna be a second home. I just call it vacation because people get confused sometimes when you're like, oh, I'm getting a second home. It's like, no, this is my third home. But vacation home, and I'll explain that in a few seconds what that means. And then a pure investment, okay? So primary is, hey, I'm gonna live this as my primary residence, and usually that's defined by, I'm gonna be living there for more than 50% of the year. Vacation home is like, hey, I'm gonna be, buying in a vacation area, call it maybe Florida, some parts in California, etc., right? Or Lake Tahoe, Big Bear, that's kind of popular in California. So vacation home is, I'm gonna be living there for like a few weeks out of the year, maybe a month or so, or maybe for a season, and then move back to my primary residence. And the reason why this is important is when you buy the vacation home or second home is you cannot use the Airbnb income or short-term rental income or however you want to rent it out to qualify to purchase. You have to qualify for the fully loaded mortgage, kind of similar to your primary, right? Because it is a vacation home, meaning I'm not going to have a tenant in there, technically speaking. Now, can you have a tenant in there or an Airbnb afterwards? Yes, you can, but you can't use it to offset your mortgage when you're purchasing it. Number three is investment, okay? So investment means I'm buying this purely as an investment and I'm not going to be living in it. Or if I do, it's pretty minimal, right? And this one you can use when you go purchase, you can use the projected rental income to help offset your mortgage to qualify for more, okay? So those are kind of the three different types. And again, if you want to get like super specific, technically you can buy a primary, and if you're buying a multi-unit, you can use that income to offset, but just for the simplicity of this video, these are kind of the three main reasons. So I'm gonna list out a few tools here on what you could use to project rents, and depending on what you plan on doing for your vacation or investment, might be a good fit for you guys. So there's gonna be short-term, STR, okay, which is short-term rentals. And then you're gonna have, I'm gonna call it midterm rentals, which is like MTR. Midterm rentals are like your 1 month to 3 months, 13 weeks or something like that. Think travel nurses, etc. Well, they'll travel to a hospital. Usually it's in 13-week increments, meaning 1 week for orientation. The next 12 weeks will be actually working at that hospital. And then once their contract is done, they'll move to the next city or extend. And then you're gonna have your LTR, which is your long-term rental. So think of this as your typical 12-month lease, okay? So we'll kind of do it a little backwards here. So we'll start from bottom to top, keep things a little spicy here. So what I usually see is you're gonna use the MLS or your real estate agent to gather data. There's Rentometer. I'm not affiliated with any of these companies, just tools that we use. Rentometer, Mashvisor is one. I'm gonna put this all the puzzle pieces together, I promise. Many Roofs is another. And then you can also do like Zillow, which is basically properties that are listed for rent on the market, and you're gonna do a manual like kind of underwriting or manual calculation. So from MTR or midterm rentals, you're gonna have AirDNA, you're gonna have Mashvisor as well. You can have your realtor. If you're buying a midterm rental, please work with somebody who's done this before or helped other clients. Oh man, I've seen so many horror stories with that. So Those are some ones. You can do furnish finders. I'm gonna do furnished F because it's too long. So basically this is like you posting your listing for short-term to mid-term rentals, and it's furnished. And then what you're gonna do is look at active listings and kind of do a rough math of like, hey, this is what I might be getting for my place if I'm gonna do mid-term rentals. Short-term rentals is actually pretty simple. It's gonna be AirDNA, MASH visor as well. Of course you do, Realtor should be one, but I'm just gonna leave that off. Rabu is one that we've used. I think it's spelled Rabu. Sorry if someone looks this up and it's spelled wrong. And then there's this other one that I'm not too familiar with. I think it's called awning. I should probably look it up, but I remember it's spelled like owning, but awning. Anyways, long story short, so here's some tools. If you're interested in short-term rentals, start with this. And I'm sure like Google or ChatGPT will give some other recommendations. Midterm rentals, these are the tools that we've used. Long-term rentals, these are the tools that we've used. So long story short, the reason why I'm bringing this all up is do not trust just one of the sources, okay? Big mistake is like, oh, I'm just gonna trust my realtor or my MLS, or I'm gonna trust Many Roofs, and that's my golden standard. What I like to do is, at least for us, and it's worked well, is let's say we're gonna do long-term rentals as an example. You would take all of these sources, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yes, technically the Zillow pulls from the MLS, etc. But let's take these data points and you wanna find your best equivalent property or comps, and then you want to compress that and average it all throughout. So let's just say this one gives you 2,000, and then this one gives you 2,500, this one gives you 1.9K, and then this other one, let's call it Zillow, gives you 2.3K. So let's do some quick math here. Maybe you can see this on the camera. Is I would do 2,000 plus 2,500 plus 1,900 plus 2,300, divide by 4. So that's your average. So what we're gonna be working with, just for the sake of spacing, I'm gonna be working with 2,175 a month as my projected rents when I'm running my analysis, okay? So that's the number I'm gonna be rocking and rolling with. But the other thing is you wanna account for vacancy factors too. So again, your real estate agent should be able to help you with that as well. So like this is basically fully loaded, 100% up and running property. But as you might know, if you list your property, it might take a month or two to get it rented, or 2 months. So you do want to kind of account for some vacancies in this number, and you chop off that a little bit. Same with midterm rentals. Pretty rare to have 100% occupancy. If it's 100% occupancy, then I think you're priced too low. So, you should kind of shoot for 90 to 97% occupancy. Same with short-term rentals. But yeah, that's kind of like how you'd use it and apply it to midterm rentals and short-term rentals. So hopefully that helps you if you're out there looking for a vacation home or investment property. These are the 3 things that I would look at, and hopefully that saves you from a ton of headaches, because we've made those mistakes before, so you can learn from ours. And talking about mistakes, this is actually something that I wish I would have had when I bought my first house. It's called the Homeownership Free Trial Guide. It's a framework that I developed on how to find your comfortable budget before you even commit to anything, before you even buy a house, before you talk to anybody. You do it in your comfort of your own house. Yes, I did these little doodles and stuff like that. And these are 100% handwritten by me. I know, I'm an artist, as you can tell, by my prior drawings. So like I mentioned, it's completely free. Grab it down below, as well as please subscribe if you wanted to get notified when I actually develop and finish the Home Clarity worksheet, which is how to find and pick the right home for you, which is basically a lot of frameworks that you can use to filter out the good, the bad, what's important, what's not. Again, that's something that I wish I would have had. Basically just putting all the experiences, the 15 units that I have and other mistakes that I've made all into this book, and I know it's gonna help somebody else. But the Homeownership Trial Guide is ready to go. Also, if you're interested in paying off your mortgage faster, I know it might be a little too soon to pay off your mortgage, but what you want to know is like the small little actions that you put in today will have a huge effect in the future. So basically I show you those simple strategies on how to pay off your mortgage faster without really having to change your life. So if you're interested, click that video right over there, and I'll catch you in the next one.